We have two meetings going on tonight for the DDA. The first one is called informational meeting. It is a state mandated meeting that we have to host twice a year. It invites the municipalities that pay into the DDA to this meeting. Typically, they don't come, so Bruce Township and both Washington Township have been invited to participate. It's an overview of what the DDA has done for the year. So we are going to go ahead. Could you go ahead and roll call?
Yeah, sure. Tar?
Here.
Kellogg? Here. Brandt?
Here.
Rose?
Here.
Hayes?
Here.
Poznansky?
Here.
Stevens?
Here.
Okay.
Can I get a motion for approval of the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Was Kellogg second?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, the informational items. Elizabeth, do you want to go over the review for that, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. This is our second time taking advantage of the Michigan Downtown Association's template for creating a downtown management report, and it really helps present just the successes that we've had in the last year. The last time we did this, it was only for, I think, 5 or 6 months, and so this time we have 11 months worth of data. The goal is next year is for it to run from January to December. That's the next goal. So you see 4 pages. Another goal is to try to get it up on the projector because it'll look a lot prettier there. I know there's some extra copies that were over there, so if anybody wants to share these, they can. So all of the photos in here have either been taken by myself or Madison Roush, who's our events coordinator. We have a couple volunteer photographers that have donated their resources as well. So just some information for those of you who are on social media. You know, it's become a really good tool for downtown associations to take advantage of and get a lot of either free advertising or very low-cost advertising compared to putting it in a newspaper. Television, if people do that still. Well, of course they do, because the Nike swoosh is all over TV, right? And so on. So you can see there, you know, our various reaches are there, and they just keep climbing. If anybody's followed our Facebook page within the last hour, we might have just hit over 7,900, so that's exciting. So it just shows the profile visits, the site visits, the direction request, the average dwell time there. I know some of you have probably heard me talk about the Placer AI data that is from the county, and our average dwell time in the village of Romeo, which is one of the highest in the county, is 111 minutes. What that means is each person who comes into the village, they're staying almost 2 hours. And if they're staying over almost 2 hours, it means they're either at one place, probably drinking or eating a lot, or they're at several businesses. That's a really good sign. As business owners, and most of you here that are on the board, and some of you in the audience, that's really good data to know. So if you ever want more of this information, that might help you know, how do we capitalize on that dwell time? Where's the rest of that data? And the county has been very generous with this information. They want to share more. We have added 3 new businesses to the downtown, so very excited about that. The yearly volunteer hours are in the regular board packet in full detail, and we're actually close to 1,000 at this point. That does not include outside work that we could not collect the data on. And we've also, I believe, but I'm not positive, I believe this is one of the first times the DDA has had such an extensive reach of trying to get outside donations, and we've gotten over $20,000 in outside donations that added to our budget. And then you see some more social media data on the next one. The third page shows some projects and behind the scenes, never before events that have happened in 2022, which was Romeo Winterfest, the Arbor Day celebration in downtown, Vintage Fest, Screech Fest, and the Chalk the Walk. We've had that many times before, so that was fun to partner with that with Arbor Day. New this year also is event planning committees. That's been happening every Thursday at 10. And just a few weeks ago, we had our first evening event planning committee meeting, and we had 16 people in attendance, which was really helpful. We had probably about 5 people who said, I can't make it tonight, but I can't wait for the next one. And the next one is this Thursday at 7 p.m. And right below there shows the schedule of events calendar draft that is put before this board for approval. This year also, we had a whole new website and branding campaign that started and was completed, I think it was April timeframe, does that sound right, when that was released? And our website calendar correlates directly with Facebook event posts, so they get tied together. So any business that decides to add Downtown Romeo as their co-host, it's just Facebook's terms, it's not ours, but they automatically get loaded to the calendar. So we have a lot of events going on. And then last Thursday, we had the privilege of having Southeast Michigan Consortium, is that right? Council of Governments, so SEMCOG downtown, and Mark Hackle helped to promote that. So we'll have another video that is going to be a promotional video that'll come out also free of charge, that we get to do whatever we want. And we have also introduced 2 newsletters within the last month through MailChimp, one that's specific to the downtown businesses only, and then the other one that is to anybody who wants to sign up for the newsletter. So you get updates on all types of things. And last, as we said, we've done the calendar of events, the downtown newsletter. We've been working on the administrative operating procedures. There's a lot of things that weren't happening before that we are doing. And then there's just some photos to kind of just show some of the other things we've done, the alley project, the fence panel painting, the Spruce It Up Sunday event, the lighting that went up downtown, the mural, the glass mural. It's been a busy year. So any questions?
I have a question. The public donations, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because that's a great goal of $20,000.
Yes, thank you.
What was that process like? And, just tell us what you can about that.
I asked. Asking's a big one, right? Just asking. We've had several businesses right in the downtown area that were quite generous with their financial donations, but it's not just, that is actually monetary number. That doesn't include the non-monotonized donations. So really just asking, I'll talk more when we get to our events calendar later, but my goal is, since we have such a big the cost of our downtown floral in the summertime is quite expensive, and as is our winter decor. And there's several businesses, especially within the industrial park, that are interested in partnering with the DDA as far as becoming annual sponsors. So that's how I'm hoping to subsidize some of those costs, because they are costly. But you go to Disney, and how do you think they make that all look pretty? It doesn't, and it costs a pretty penny. So in order to continue that, and in order to continue what we're doing, we're going to have to ask for
Do you
some
know
more.
previous years what?
I do not. No.
None that I recall.
None. Okay. So that's a great
No, done.
accomplishment.
No. Yeah, it was never something we pursued, but Elizabeth put it in there as part of her goals to help offset some of these costs on events and things like that. So she's delivering.
Thank you.
And I think the local businesses are benefiting, so it's great to see.
Good. Mission accomplished.
Yeah. You went well above your goal. That's
I have a question for you. First of all, great job on putting this together, and
Thank you.
obviously on everything here moving forward. I'm excited for the event committee. Is the plan still weekly meetings?
Yes.
Continues weekly meetings?
Yes.
How often on these evening meetings?
Right now, I think, Chris, you're in the audience. I think did we say every 3 weeks? I can't remember. Yeah, I mean, we have a couple big events coming up, especially, Winterfest is a huge event, so it's going to take more than that, and some of those might be off-site, and some subcommittees, especially like those who might be working on, say, all the kids' crafts. It doesn't have to be done at an office location. That could possibly be done at someone's home or whatnot. But yeah, the weekly meetings are really important. We have this continuity that takes an hour, and these women, and sometimes men, sometimes businesses, and mostly we have a few businesses that show up every week. I would like to, it would be remiss for me not to mention, this whole entire report was put together by Madison. So she's our events and administrative coordinator, and she just has done a phenomenal job with that. And if none of you are familiar with the Michigan Downtown Association, I encourage you to go online and look it up, and also go on Spotify. They have In My Downtown podcast. You can learn a lot about how do downtowns do what they do. And I've learned many things that we've already adopted here. And we're going to be on one. I was just interviewed last week, so that's going to be fun.
And for the audience, can you just tell them who Madison is?
Sure. Madison Rausch is my very part-time events and admin coordinator. She came to us on the first event planning committee meeting last January, 45 days before we had our first Winterfest, and she said, my mom saw a notice on Facebook and said you guys were going to plan events and I want to learn how to do them. I said, let's learn together. And so she did, and she became my lead volunteer for all the volunteers for that event on February 24th last year. I found out about a grant opportunity through the Four County Community Foundation, so they co-funded her internship. And then I convinced the board to let me hire her as a part-time employee if I committed to raising $20,000 in donations. So I got a staff member, and you guys got your money, so.
Are there any board member comments on this portion of the meeting?
Great job.
I'd just like to point out, in the master plan, one of the initiatives for long-term was to develop a marketing business recruitment retention plan, which included the digital footprint and advertising materials. And I think by launching that website and putting the newsletter out, you hit one of them.
And what was the cost on that?
$30,000.
And what did we pay?
Zero?
Yeah, well, we paid for the
Well,
website
we
a little
paid for
bit.
the
Yeah, it was a
website,
few
yes.
$1,000s, but yeah. And I've learned how to do Instagram, so I just learned some new things this last week from my daughter, so that's been fun, so.
Okay, with that, can I get a motion to adjourn this?
Do you have
portion?
number 5?
Oh, public comment?
Hello, I'm Suzanne Roque, and I've been a resident of Washington Township for almost 4 years and have had the privilege of volunteering with the Romeo DDA for almost 4 months. I am one of Elizabeth Miller's #1 fans, and looking around, I am not alone. Small town, big heart. Elizabeth Miller is honest, energetic, organized, personable, and encouraging. I have seen the mutual respect between her and her business owners, community leaders, volunteers, visitors, and residents. That energy and cooperative dynamic is a huge reason that there is a growing sense of community and vibrancy in downtown Romeo. Her passion for making downtown Romeo the best it can be is contagious. She listens. She has a gift of engaging people of all ages to become involved, to open their eyes to the possibilities, of showing them the value of investing their time and talents in downtown Romeo. I have seen and felt the positive change in Romeo. Arbor Day was a promise that there were people in Romeo who understood the importance of bringing community together. Vintage Fest was an arms wide open welcome to the community and beyond. It said, things are changing. We see the value in offering family fun activities. Come and be a part of what Romeo has to offer. I recently took a photo during downtown Romeo's trick-or-treating of my costumed granddaughters in front of Sarah Casper's bottle mural, Juliet's Potential, and explained its meaning. Sat at a picnic table in Marketplace Alley where volunteers from the high school showed us how to carve a pumpkin. And then we enjoyed a pizza from down the street, right there at the picnic table, in this beautifully transformed public space. Such an improvement over the redundant and, in my opinion, dangerous through alley where cars were once allowed to connect to Main Street. These beautiful changes have not happened by accident. Elizabeth sees the importance of cultivating relationships and understands that together we are stronger. Together we are better. Elizabeth is a treasure, she is a leader, she is a connector. And that big heart, if you look closely at its center, you'll find Elizabeth Miller. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Do I have anybody else at this point? Pardon me?
As a board member, I'm also a business owner and multiple building owners in the downtown development area. I too want to echo the comments of this lady who was up here. Appreciate those comments. I felt the same, connected to Romeo for about 56 years, all my life in between living in Washington Township and in the village. And I can remember when there were parking meters, and we don't have Bill Parker here tonight, so I guess I'm the senior man on deck, but angled parking on Main Street and parking meters, and that was when I was quite young. But I can recall it being quite busy, and it was a place we'd go, and this is reminiscent of it. My business doesn't necessarily thrive from walk-in traffic and that sort of thing, and the truth is most of my business comes from way outside of the village of Romeo. I just love the village and love having an office downtown, and I appreciate what Elizabeth has done for the other business owners, because they thrive on traffic, they thrive on activity in the village. And I know one of the things we'll talk about later on, I'm disheartened to think that there's those who don't see it that way and maybe want to see the DDA go away and not have a place to conduct their business and sow discord in different ways. So I hope we can continue moving strong and the momentum will stay there. So stay heartened, work hard like you've been doing, and we appreciate what you're doing.
Hi, I'm Donna Sumnus. I have Old World Nouveau, and I'm also a resident. I wanted to share my appreciation for the work that has been going on throughout our downtown. The Christmas lights on Main Street look great. I appreciate the work that Carl and Andrew from Dance Studio have done. They have hung the lights in the corner of our building along with other lights throughout the Main Street. I wanted the lighted tree to be a welcome to all of our village residents as well as visitors who enter from the south. Carl and Andrew did a fantastic job. The planters and greenery on the light posts throughout the village are beautiful as well. I appreciate the first evening DDA meeting that was held last month. It was a positive mix of residents and business owners brainstorming and sharing. What a wonderful reflection of working together. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
There's more public comment in the next meeting, so.
Uh-oh. Well, this is specific to the first part. Ruth Heidebrecht, I'm a resident for over 50, I don't know how many years, and owner of the MIT TV. And we have worked with you from the very beginning, and I've never seen anything like it. I have so many people commenting and sending in to our inboxes, talking about how their friends are coming to their houses now for the weekends and wanting to stay overnight because there's so many things to do in our village. And this has happened in 6 months, a little more over 8 months, okay. All right, I'll give you a year.
Okay.
And the amount of volunteers, I'm on the committees, I'm on the event committee, different boards. It's very difficult to get volunteers, to get them to show up, to not want to just go home, eat dinner, watch Netflix, and go to bed. It takes, right? It takes a huge commitment and a huge heart to convince people, to drag them into these meetings and give them incentive. And you have given us incentive to do that. I was at the advisory meeting the other night, and it was the advisory meeting for the academies, and all these brilliant students were there. And in Romeo, we have brilliant students, wonderful families who have raised incredible kids. And everybody was going around and saying why they thought that we had some of these great kids. And one of the kids got up and said, I invite my friends here because there's always something to do. So we're not only just building the business for all of you guys and all of our businesses. We're building a culture, a village culture, that 2 or 3 or 4 people during the park lighting the other night said, "This is why I moved here with my kids." And you have facilitated that in bringing those people, which brings our value up to our homes, whether or not we're in meetings or whether we own a business or not. And it brings true value to our culture. So we love the program you're doing. Thank you.
Okay.
If I may, just briefly, because I'm not going to say it later, most likely, but thank you. I had no idea anybody was going to be saying any of that, and it is very kind, but none of that honestly would be possible if they didn't allow me to do this. I have to have the support of a supportive board. So it is really, without them giving me a long leash and me taking it a little further at times, and I have to be yanked back, and reminded of that occasionally, John, thank you. Truly, it's with a supportive board that these things can happen, because if it wasn't work for these people that are appointed, and by the way, there's 2 open seats that are going to be filled soon, but I don't know by whom, so hopefully we can continue this, so thank you for believing in my vision, so that is really yours, so thank you.
I have a question, but I don't know which meeting it belongs to. My question is, who has the power to disband this great thing?
That's my same question.
Do you want them to hold that for the next one, or?
I don't think we're talking about disbanding.
Yeah, I don't think,
No.
and it's nothing that our board is.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's,
Because I was hearing these things about that.
That's the telephone game.
Facebook.
True, it's got to be true, right?
That's great news to hear that it's not going anywhere, so.
The village.
What you're hearing is that we've been evicted from our,
Greg,
I'm
that's our
sorry.
second meeting.
oh, my bad.
Okay. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting, please?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second by Keller?
John?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
All right, give me a second to switch papers here. Kelly, do you want to mention that there's agendas over there if anybody wants them?
There were 2 sets of agendas, so if you picked up only one, this one is the regular meeting for the DDA that we're going to now. They're gone. Oh, they're gone? Oh. Well, look at your neighbors. Are you
I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Elizabeth, could you do a roll call?
Sure. Tar?
Here.
Kellogg? Here. Brandt?
Here.
Rose?
Here.
Hayes?
Here.
Poznanski? Here. Stevens?
Here. Could everybody stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, do we have anybody here for public forum for this meeting? All right.
Re-ask my question?
Pardon me?
Do I re-ask my question?
About, you can. You want to go to the podium?
Oh. So my question is, I don't know what the structure is of the DDA and how it is that it exists and continues, and how it is that it may be dismantled, and like if this is something that we vote on every year or something, because if we do, I'm in, where do I go, what do I do? Because I think it's awesome. I, as a business owner in town, and I live in Bruce, I think what's going on is awesome, and I've lived here 22 years, and I see a dramatic change, and I love it, and I want to keep this going, so.
Ultimately, the disbandment of a DDA would be done at the council level,
Okay.
but that hasn't been brought forward, so.
Yeah, I don't think our board is in any danger of going away if that's what anybody is concerned with here tonight. That's nothing that's been even on anybody's radar, so if anybody heard that, I can't imagine it would be true. So we can put that to rest.
What is out there is making, I think, Elizabeth's job more difficult to do the good things we've been hearing about by having our lease, I guess, terminated, which is one of the things we'll be talking about tonight, and trying to find an alternate office space and the money to pay for it, because, you know, any dime we spend
Okay,
on
we
that.
can go with that discussion.
Can I ask a question? Megan, how do you plan to support Elizabeth?
In what way would you like me to support her?
Every way. I mean, you have a community of people who are very happy with what she's doing. What are your feelings with all the things going on in Romeo? And how do you plan to support the DDA?
Do you want to have this now, Kelly, or do you want to wait till, what would you prefer?
Well, is that to do with the lease, or you're just asking in general?
In general, and
Okay.
with the lease, that's
Well-
supporting her. If you're taking away their place to meet, that's not a supporting thing to me.
Kelly, could we have a definition of what a DDA is, and is it in the charter of the village?
The village, 1985, started the DDA, and it is part of their, they approved just last year our master plan. And how often and that master plan goes from 2022 through 2037.
It's a 15-year plan that was approved.
And it was just approved, I believe, last November.
This master plan is available, hard copies are at the office. If anybody want one, I'd be happy that you can pick one up, or you can, I can mail it to you. You can also find it on our website, downtownromeo.net. It is on the information section about us. You can find the whole entire thing. And this is the old logo, so it was done last November, as we said. So lots of great information in here. It also talks about the funding as well.
Right, and this was done between the DDA and Macomb Planning and Economic, and this package was brought forth before council in their November meeting last year, and it was voted to be approved. So I will have you come up and talk when we do our agenda item, okay? Can I get an approval of the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve as presented?
Second.
Second?
Who was the second, I'm sorry?
Elizabeth? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Can I get an approval of the minutes from the November 7th regular meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Our financial report.
Okay, so, as you see, there's the report from Danielle Kelly, who is our accountant from Plant Moran. The financial statements year-to-date are from July 1st, 2022 to November 28th, 2022. This month was closed prior to the end of the month due to the timing of the board meeting. All transactions are included with the exception of interest income for the month of November. No revenue was collected this month, and total bills presented for approval are $15,022.23. Work completed in November. The bookkeeper, Rebecca, entered all invoices, issued checks, and processed payroll. Plant Moran closed the month through November 28th and prepared schedules for the board packet. The 6/30/22, so the end of the fiscal year, for those of you who don't know. Audit was completed and draft financial statements are currently being finalized, so we haven't seen that. There is not a credit card statement in this month's board packet because that bill was paid after the board packet was closed, or the board financials were closed. So the bills that are presented here were from your packet last month, the credit card statement from last month, so just so you know. Are there any questions about the financials?
I have a question regarding statement of activity. Telephone service. We're handling that differently this year than last year, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, John, tell me what page you're on.
Phone service, what is it, page 4, statement of activity, the first page of statement of activity.
All right, give me a second.
Under office expenses, 857, telephone service. and there actually is none. So where are we handling the telephone service? Is that on the
She was
credit
getting a
card?
stipend.
Yeah, I get a stipend every month for my cell phone.
Okay, so that amount is covered, is that on your, is that
It's
credit card?
covered under payroll.
Yeah, I believe it's covered under payroll, so I would have to ask accounting if it's supposed to be there, if it should be moved to the phone service section, and that could be.
Minor thing that can be addressed later, but I'd
Yeah.
love to see it separated out somewhere, somehow.
You do want to see it separated out? Okay, that makes sense.
You know, I'm comparing last year to this year,
And we didn't spend any money on the
and we didn't
phone.
spend any money on it, which obviously we have, so where's it coming from?
Okay, I'll make a note
But
of
the
that.
setup, if you remember, during the hiring process was she would use
Oh,
her
I get
personal
it,
phone.
I get it, I just,
Yeah, no, you're right.
where
should
is
be-
it, where is it in here, is all I'm saying. So,
Okay.
and 720.010, office rent, where's that coming out of? Because it's also a zero?
Yes, the village had not billed us
Okay.
for that, so that's been taken care of since this packet closed.
What is that amount? Anybody know?
It's $50 a
It is
month.
50?
So $600 a year. The last 2 years, it was paid in one lump sum.
Got it? Thank you.
And that was, just for record, that was, that lease, which is in the board packet, was dated July 15th, 2019, in an effort to save, I believe, save the DDA money, and then also to join services, and so that's what we've been doing at
Yeah.
Village Hall.
So that'll be paid at a later date, it just hasn't.
It's been paid, correct. It's been paid.
Any other discussion? Can I get a motion to approve the bill pay of $15,022.23?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, which was the second? Sometimes you two
Elizabeth.
sound alike, so, okay, sorry.
Who, Kelly?
Yeah, no, you and Megan sometimes sound alike.
Roll call.
Okay. Poznanski,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Brandt,
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Kellogg,
Yes.
Tar.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, DDA's executive report.
Okay. I apologize for not having this in the board packet, as is my my habit. Last Thursday was a little busy, so I just got that to you today. So this is and it's one page. I condensed it a little bit. Downtown Romeo in the news. So this is my December report. On Thursday the 1st, we hosted SEMCOG on a promotional video, their promotional video team. It was a lot of fun. We had many residents and business owners participate in the action shots and the B-roll coverage. We are grateful to Macomb County Executive Mark Hackle for participating. Romeo DDA will own and use and distribute it as we see fit. And that should be completed as, so that we can use it as a marketing tool for this Christmas season. We should get it by the end of this week. He's hoping to have it to us by Wednesday or Thursday.
Also a freebie.
Yes, absolutely, at no cost. And that is part of SEMCOG's vision, is enriching downtowns. And the reason I became aware of that is Romeo Village resident Andrew Hale, he works for a municipality, and he sends me messages sometimes. Have you heard of this? Have you heard of that? He had just been to a SEMCOG meeting, and so I inquired, and before you know it, we had a production scheduled. So let me see if I can do this off the top of my head. The Cottage was participated, Bon Appetito, Honey Pie Kids, All Around the House Interiors, Town Hall Soda Fountain, RJD Galleries, and Main Street Romeo Kitchen and Bar. So, and Mother Spa as well. So they said a minimum or a maximum of 5 to 6, and I said, can I have 8? So we did 8. And they're going to do another one next spring, it'll be more close towards summer, when all of the flowers are up, and it'll look real beautiful downtown. So that's a pretty big deal for us to have that. Secondly, this was a surprise. Local resident Chris Troy, who is part of our evening events committee meeting, he's a fairly new resident right here in town. He created a holiday promotional video for us, and he is in videography, and he said, I'd love to do this on the side. We have uploaded the video to the front page of our website. That was done today by Madison. It can also be found on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So that's fun. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but it was a fun little thing that he put together. On December 1st, Also, yeah, it was a very busy day. I was interviewed for the podcast In My Downtown, an MDA production. This was part of a winter event-themed podcast where several Michigan DDA directors were interviewed and asked to speak about a winter event. We will be featured discussing Romeo Winterfest in 2023. The release is slated for later this month or maybe the beginning of January, not quite sure. I got to talk a lot about the Romeo Winterfest 5K that we're going to be hearing about today. We have started regular distribution of our 2 online newsletters via MailChimp. We've received positive feedback in this new form of communication to both our central business district and the general newsletter. Details are provided in that we went over on the downtown management report. Community collaboration, DTE has added their 2 replacement electrical poles in the southeast quadrant parking areas and the private driveway adjacent to the dry cleaners. Telephone services still need to be transferred to the new poles, and once that's completed, the old poles will be removed. And there's no cost for this project either, as those old poles were, in DTE's words, have been there since Jesus, is the way they said it. So if you go and see them, they're like this. It's like the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Romeo. So it was very good that got done, because that was a huge safety hazard, and I'm not sure why that hasn't been addressed before, but it got taken care of. Our winter-themed fence panels have been reinstalled. They can be enjoyed during the Christmas season into the 2nd annual Romeo Winterfest in February. This is another way we continue to engage our community and bring in the multifaceted talents of our high school students. Huge thank you to Our White Services for donating the time and talent of Ron and his staff for the removal, delivery, and then the reinstallation of those panels. Santa Mailbox has a fresh look by local artist Stephanie Sukat-Felchek. Did I say her name right? I'm not sure. The reveal was fun to promote on social media, and we're so grateful for prior artwork that was done by Cam Maitland. Both of their signatures remain near the retrieval door on the mailbox. We're excited about our collaboration with the Romeo High School cross-country team and holding their first ever Romeo Winterfest 5K. Thanks to the Village Council for approving the event, and more details will be covered under new business. I was invited to participate in the Romeo Community Schools Strategic Vision meeting on November 15th, and it was an honor to be included in that. Along with President Poznansky, we were on the same committee table working on something. And then I forgot to include that we were in our first parade this year. That was a lot of fun. We carried the signs around, and our inflatable snowman were dancing and going around with them, so that was a lot of fun. I told them they could go home, and they said, can we stay longer? And so they did. That was fun. Christmas decor. All the Christmas lights and decor have been installed by our contractor, and everything looks wonderful. Carl Brandt and his team of volunteers have installed some of our Christmas tree-shaped light displays, and they look lovely and festive and unique to Romeo, so thank you to Carl and Andrew for that. Banners are up and also look adorable as usual. Some of the owners of our giant snowmen have put them on display with a Christmas winter theme, and our snowman competition will take place in January to coincide with our Romeo Winterfest. That's my report. And then you see there's an events report from Madison, and then our volunteer report, which is the 3rd page. I'll just touch on that briefly, but we have just shy of 800 volunteer hours from January to October, and that's just what we logged. We're very proud of that, and it's incredibly humbling to ask for help and have people show up in such droves to do it, and sometimes it's just for a little coffee or a little bagels, or I'm grateful to Youngers. They donated some munchies for us at our last evening event, and I just can't say enough good things about people volunteering. I'm a volunteer myself, and I always feel, oh, it's fine, and then when you are on the other end asking for the help, it really makes my heart happy. So it's been fun. So if anybody wants to see that, I'd be happy to give it to you. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Unfinished business is up. Marketplace Alley. I know that we are looking to extend the Marketplace Alley closure for Winterfest. So I don't know if there's any discussion.
Do we want to approve the?
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, did you want to follow the agenda? Sorry.
I know.
I want to get out of here too, Kelly.
Well, hold on a minute.
I don't think it works that way.
There's no funding in class.
There's no funding. The policy committee, parking committee, did you guys want?
We can touch it. I mean, Greg, John, and myself met with Elizabeth a couple weeks ago
Last
Was it last
Monday.
week? Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Last Monday, one of the things we spoke about was the Marketplace Alley and how it could potentially affect the businesses. And we're right now in correspondence with the owner of Buscemi's, but we have to contact, we haven't been able to schedule time with him yet at this point. I don't know if there was any further correspondence since then.
No, there isn't.
So we're just trying to make sure that all the property owners in that area are comfortable with that alley being closed, and if there is an effect to their business, that they have the opportunity to voice that. And then we also talked about box cleaners, but that's going to come up next for unfinished business anyway, so that's it.
So our idea, I think Zach and I talked, is that we at least get this extended to be closed through Winterfest
So we just have to make that ask.
Mhm.
So if,
to the council.
right, but not the issue before was that it was requesting the permanent closure. So because there is so much conversation that still needs to take place and signing off on businesses, I think that our recommendation from this board would be to ask the village to either extend the temporary closure, because as of December 31st, it expires, to either extend it through Winterfest, or if you don't want to call it an extension, it would just be a reclosure of the alley through Winterfest. So that would be what we would ask to take to council at their next meeting. So do we need to take a vote on that?
For my purposes, yes, that would make me feel more comfortable.
So I
So
guess.
we have a motion to present to village council the extension of the closure of Marketplace Alley through the end of February.
Is this a leap year, or would that be February 28th?
Is it a leap year?
I don't know.
I don't.
No? Okay.
It's not. I think
Thank you.
last year was or something.
Thank you for whoever the calendar person is that's looking
Can I
at
get a
that.
second on that, please?
Was that your motion, Kelly? Okay.
Yeah, and I'll second.
I'll sign it.
All right, who's taking it? Greg? Okay.
I'll give it to you.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
I'm going to hold my vote for council.
So is that a refrain, is that a
Abstain.
abstain?
Abstain.
Okay.
Maybe.
All right, was there, okay, so is that so you were, was there anybody else who was a no?
I'm sorry, I didn't speak. Can I get a question in? We want it for Winterfest. Do we have a need? What is the specific reason for that alley during Winterfest, I guess is the question. Or,
That's a great question.
I mean, we want to close for Winterfest for,
Yeah, what was the use of the alley last year during Winterfest? Did we?
We didn't have it closed
It wasn't
last year.
closed.
No, we didn't have it closed until
Were you going to put the
approval was
warming
April.
station
use
in
it.
there?
Yeah, there's
The
warming station, there could be crafts, there can be all kinds of things. You know, we're talking about having food vendors. The sky's kind of the limit. I mean,
You sure
ice
you-
sculptures could be carved there.
you sure you didn't have it closed?
I'm positive.
Where'd you put the burn barrels or?
On the street.
The alley, they were by your place, it was down by Honey Pie Kids, and it was also
It was on by-
over by Parker Alley, by where the mural is now. There's the there were only 3 burn, no, it was in front of there, you're right. We had it closed, but it was just for the day. You're right. You're
Oh,
right.
it was just a day closure.
It was just a day closure, right, for an event closure. Mhm.
So is your vision, whoever's vision Winterfest is to same purpose?
And more.
Okay.
Yeah, and more. I mean, there's ice carving, I mean, there's so many other things we can do, and that's, my events committee is working on, some more details of that, so, yeah. And ultimately, I mean, it's up to village council whether they,
Right.
want to have that closed longer or not, but, if anybody's seen those gorgeous fence panels, those kids did a phenomenal job with that. It'd be great to show that off a little longer, but it's up to them.
Okay. The Locks Cleaners parking lot for winter 20.
May I ask clarity on that? So, John, were you a yes or a no? Where were you at?
Oh.
I will say yes. I'd like to mention one thing about it, though. I'd just like to get to a point where we either close it or we open it. So I guess I don't even know if it's an appropriate statement. What are we saying, end of February? And then I think we should have a decision made one way or the other, because, I mean, I think that's a good deadline for all of us involved, because it's kind of crazy, this start, stop drives me nuts.
Yeah, I agree with you, John, and I think that's, where, that due diligence
Right.
on our end, just, we have to see that through, and, it's tough to coordinate the schedules with, because...
Absolutely. So our mission, I think, on the board is let's get our recommendation set by the end of February, so then council has
Otherwise, it's just...
proper information to make their decision. So that's all. I'm good.
So that was a yes?
It's yes.
Okay. Okay, the Locks Cleaner parking lot for winter 2022-23. Do we have new information on that?
Were you able to follow up with Town Hall Antiques after our last meeting?
I did, I think, is Jason still here? He just went outside, okay. So Jason Foltz, who his family owns Town Hall Antiques, had a conversation with him, and he said, just in light of all the controversy about this, whether taxpayer dollars gets used to help plow a parking lot, and I want to apologize, first and foremost, when we discussed this, it completely did not come to my mind how much we talked about shared parking spaces and like what Lake Orion has done, and how I forgot about that, I guess, just in the midst of everything else. We didn't talk about that, but that would be like a shared parking situation, but we're nowhere near getting to that type of an agreement with the village or businesses. So in talking with Mr. Foltz, he just said, you know what, I'll just take care of it. So it kind of, it's a very generous thing for him to do. So he's working that out with Mr. Bowers, how they're doing that. For those of you who don't know, there's parking spaces between the old Locks Cleaners building and what used to be the old Romeo Observer / the winery, which was what it was after that. And all of those parking spaces are private property that the current owner allows people to use. So whether you agree whether he should do that or not, or plow it or not, he's under no obligation to plow it. There's no ordinance that makes him do that, to our understanding.
Just the sidewalks, not the...
Just the
Yeah,
sidewalks,
you only have to
right.
maintain the
So instead of him
sidewalks.
roping it off and it becoming like a bumpy ice rink, Mr. Foltz has agreed to take care of plowing that and taking care of that, so,
Thank you to them.
yeah.
Great.
All right.
So go buy some antiques from there and say thank you. Or ice cream.
I always
All
do.
right, new business. In the packet was the event calendar up for approval. I don't know, this has been brought before us several times.
So this is still kind of tentative because there's some question marks and there's some events is that just, they may or may not happen, or they're still in the conversation stages?
Sure, so that's a good question. And Kelly and I were reviewing a little bit this earlier today. Really, the first question mark going down, just mainly under the actual event, not the notes, so I would just, the notes are more for internal purposes, obviously. The first one, the Mayfest one under Romeo Lions Club, that, I would not add that onto our annual calendar events because I have not been in communication with the foundation yet this year as far as if they want us involved at all, and if they don't, that's totally fine. So that would not be on the permanent events calendar. And then if you go down into June, on the 24th, and June and July, both have question marks, you can eliminate those because those have been solidified. Vintage Fest can happen on the same day as the Garden Walk. The Garden Club is happy with that. The Pet Parade is still a question mark. I know Elizabeth Kellogg can't lead that, but at our last evening events committee, our first one actually, there was a lot of interest of somebody maybe taking that up, so I'd like to at least keep it as a placeholder. Sorry, moving let's go back up to June. I would like to see us do an 8-week concert series in the park. Wednesdays, our events committee, they all did, Suzanne especially, because she's my musical volunteer extraordinary, she's amazing. And she looked at a lot of other communities and saw that Wednesdays, Thursdays are a really good day, but that's the same night as bike night. And that sort of conflicts with music with big old bikes going by and roaring and making noise. So we thought Wednesday would be a good, but, yes, that is going to take some funds to do that. But as you can see, we have ways of raising money in this organization, so I'm not too concerned about the fees of that. One of our other volunteers thought that, for us to do a farmer's market, we have so many markets just north of town and in town, just south of town. So for us to have a farmer's market downtown, we've tried them so many different times, and they kind of flop. And nobody wants to go to an event where there's maybe some people. You want to see a bunch of people. Who wants to go to a restaurant where there's one person, right? And you're like, ooh, is the food good? So the idea came, what about if we did some sort of boutique markets at the same time as the concerts? So artesian breads being sold and, cheeses and various things like that. So I have a volunteer who is part of the Romeo Monday Club, and she's quite the classy lady, so she's pretty excited about the potential of doing something like that. So that's kind of a big one. Obviously, we would have to work together with Parks and Rec. Grace, I see you're here. We'd work together with Parks and Rec to make sure nothing conflicts with that, but we have quite the repertoire of musicians from across the state that want to come and perform in Romeo. So that could be a really fun way to use our new gazebo/pavilion, whatever it's going to be. And yes, it will be done in time to do that. So is there any thoughts on that from the board? I know most of you have either been to an events committee meeting several times. It's been before this board before as a draft. I'm anxious to take the word draft off this. Thoughts on the summer concert series? Too much, too little? Don't like it?
I think it would be a good addition.
I love
to
it, especially with the new park, and it'll be done by then.
Great
the
idea.
Stage
Okay. I'll be leaning on Parks and Rec for some help on that, and I know Suzanne will line up some phenomenal musicians for that. So then back to you, Zach. Of course, Peach Fest is just on, it's not our event, but it's a village event, right? So it's on the calendar. Downtown Day was a huge success last year with all of our buskers. And then, yes, we have the Screech Fest. I know there's been some concerns, and of course, we'll make sure to to have anything associated. If that's what Tilson Street wants, we won't have any association whatsoever. That's possible or not. The Art and Wine Walk, that's the date that's been preserved, which is in Warlock. Trick-or-treating, of course. November, I've got a typo under Small Business Saturday. That should be a / not a 5, so 11/26. And the other thing that our events committee is working on is the idea of having weekends in December like we did Screech Fest, but call it possibly an old-fashioned Christmas in Romeo. Weekends in December. So that's going to be kind of, people wanted to do it this year, and I'm like, you guys, I'm exhausted. Let's wait till next year. So that's an idea. There's quite a few thoughts flowing around on that one, and I think we can make that a really successful thing for our businesses. But it can be in partnership, obviously, with Parks and Rec for our tree lighting, like other past years, the Historical Society, Christmas Home Tour. It's just a way to enhance our down. I mean, we've just got a killer downtown, and our community is just amazing. So that'd be a fun way. Also, with this events and banner calendar approval, the last thing that's on there, you'll see there's an Indian encampment reenactment. There's a local resident, she's fairly new, but she's a retired school teacher who is of Native American descent, and she is interested in bringing awareness to our community and connecting our roots from what the village was originally named was Indian Village, and she wants to do that event in its entirety by herself with her volunteers. So I have yet to communicate with her one-on-one on that, but I do know of her and her reputation, and that could be put in on the calendar wherever the events committee sees fit. And then, of course, there's ongoing events that each business or Starkweather or the Masonic Lodge, whoever, if they want to have us put them on our events calendar and our social media. The banner schedule at the bottom, I'm sorry, should I pause so you can ask questions? Okay. So thinking, we get the charge that we get from DPW varies depending on, so I'm looking to hopefully have some sort of an MOU with the village to try to get our costs solidified. So one time it's not $300 for them to install the banners, and the next time it's $600 or $700. There's not a consistency there. So from a budget perspective, I like to see that. So we're looking to just do our Winterfest banners over the streets if possible, a few of our light pole banners. February to May, I would love to see us use some of our budget money for banners, create some new, I don't have anything with our, well, the little logo. I'd love to see some banners with our new logo on it. That can be used consistently, so we'll see if that, depending on what you think. Mid-May to August would be the American flag historic Romeo banners that were up. There was a lot of people who loved having those up for an extended period of time this summer. And then the Lions usually put their Peach Fest banners up, but they might extend that some this year, I believe, doing some more. And this year, for September to October, we plan on, if approved, partnering with the Romeo District Library to bring the historic trivia banners back out. They haven't been used, I think, in over 10 or 15 years. And there's these fun questions in the bottom, and then you get to answer them. And Chris, you probably remember, because our kids were little when we did those before. And that's just another fabulous way to partner with another local. So they would probably run that, but obviously they would be the banners that we put up. And then lastly, it would be the downtown business Christmas light pole banners. We're just going to keep using those things until we can't stick them back up again, or Amy all tells me I can't. Or are you going to make new ones for me next year? Maybe. Ah! She said no last time I asked. So, all right, that's a lot. Any questions?
Really quick, Elizabeth, do you know how much of our CBD events budget do we have left through the fiscal year? Do we know what we're looking at?
That's a great question.
Because if we could kind of break this up, I know it's an annual calendar, but it's
Yeah.
going to fall in a different budget time, so it may be helpful to kind of break it up like through May and know what we have left to spend. It doesn't have to be tonight, but like.
Sure, I could work with our accountant on that. In
Yeah.
fact, that's one of the things that she said, I'm really glad to see that you're doing this, because this will really help us with the budget process
Right.
when we go to do that, in April and May before it goes to village council for
'Cause
approval.
Then as we work through what's left here, we kind of know from now through May what we can spend
Sure.
and where we can put the funds for each event. So, because I know there's different levels of commitment depending on what the event is. So that might be helpful for the board to just see.
And it might
Sure.
help, Elizabeth, if you, just a thought, add maybe a couple other columns on this and add where banners are going to be used.
Sure.
Like permits, not all of these events, we're going to need like street closing, the street close. So maybe some other columns. And then do you, are we going to get this monthly for updates, or what are your thoughts?
It won't look like this. It will be similar to like when you see the meeting calendar for here, it's just this form thing, and then you get it in a better presentation. So this will get completely redone, and it won't look anything like this
So we need to
when it's
approve the
approved.
draft of this.
Correct, yeah, the draft as presented, and then that gives us the ability to market this. I have companies that want to sponsor our events for the year. They're not looking to sponsor for one, they want to do it across the board. So that will help us from a budget perspective. You don't have to limit it to, say, 5,000 for this event or this, but if it's for the whole thing, that allows me and my staff of one, and my volunteers to really work on, with the funds that we've been provided, or to try to get more.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023 events calendar and banner schedule as presented.
Second.
Is that? Carl. Okay. Carl. Oh, I'm sorry. Carl seconded? Okay, sorry.
If I could, before we take minutes, I do, on the second page where we're talking about Christmas, I like this idea. This is an old idea we had a few years ago. Lisa and myself came up with, this was our name, doesn't have to be the name. We called it the Very Vintage Christmas.
Oh,
And
cute.
this is where those bows that didn't get put up this year, this is where that kind of look went to being vintage, and we were only bought half at the time. The plan was to buy another half so that we would have enough. So this takes us into that, a step into that, so it's good to see.
Oh, cute. When was that done, Megan? When was that? Was that
We were on the computer, so it was COVID time.
Oh, 20.
I was just going to say, yeah.
Because those bows were purchased in 20. I remember seeing the invoice, so.
But you guys
Okay.
couldn't do it because COVID hit.
There was, there was a lot of stuff, so, and then any motion going forward just kind of ceased at that point with all of that, so it's good to see that coming back, and that we do really need to look at our Christmas decor. Those snowflakes should have never been up the last 3 years, so.
Yeah, but
we
they keep making them last, and we keep
Band-aiding them.
buying new bulbs from the company.
Well, it's
and-
not the bulbs, it's the,
Yeah.
myself, so.
Okay, so
Good to
we
see.
had a motion. Did everybody in favor? Okay, we're done.
I didn't hear, there wasn't a vote.
All in favor? Did we?
No.
You're
No, because
telling me
Megan had a
yes.
question, so.
All right.
I-
Zach did
I
it,
made the
Carl
motion.
seconded it, now we need everybody's. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? Okay.
I want a round of applause for that one. I'm super excited about that, so.
Do you know where those bows are?
Pardon?
Do you know where those bows are?
Do I know where they are?
You know where they are? Yeah.
Yes, I loaned them to Ruth Heidelbright to use on the trolley. Yeah,
We cleaned them up and put them in, they were in big black bags, and we cleaned them up and we decorated the trolley that carried Santa, Mrs. Santa, to the park.
But I think they're back, they're going to get to the DPW?
I'm sorry?
They're going to end up at the DPW, or that's where they were?
Right, correct.
That's where they were.
So DBW, how many are there?
I'd have to look at the invoice. There were 50, weren't there? Did you?
I don't recall the amount.
Yeah, there were 50 of them,
Okay.
yeah.
And I have a question about Arbor Day. Is it on the list of?
Yes,
Yes, it's in April.
It's on there, yep, I just kind of skimmed over it. We weren't talking about every single one of them, but
it
yeah.
was pretty fast.
Yeah, there was no change to that one,
And we
so.
also would like to add the dedication of the park event too. So, I know we've got a lot of things going on, but we'll try to.
We can talk about that in committee, I think, so,
So
perfect.
to answer your question, as far as I know, they'll be returned to the commission, take it back to the people.
Great, or I'll meet you out there. That'd be great, thank you. Yeah, and just for clarity, for those who don't know, the MIT TV has a business in the Central Business District. Other items that are owned by the DDA have been loaned to other businesses within the Central Business District. The lights in the shape of Christmas trees, all of those lights, except for a couple, right, Carl, are owned by the DDA. Those are DDA-funded lights that are up on those buildings, save a couple of them, I believe they bought on their own, but, yeah, so that's not,
We didn't use those for the, we used those for
Right.
Parks and Rec.
right.
Okay. Romeo Winterfest 5K presentation by Mike Buslett.
So I welcome Mike Buslip to the podium. Mike is, he was two of my kids, their cross-country and track coach. And I had the privilege, along with Christine Melzon and, let's see, Catherine Trapp, our clerk, and one of our police officers to attend Career Day. And he was going by, I'm like, Mike, what do you think about a 5K for Winterfest? He's like, great idea. And here he is. So I'd love for you to present, even though we have the preliminary approved by Village Council, kind of present to the board and the public what we're going to do with it.
Absolutely, and it's kind of cool that you guys have this, and I actually know a lot of the board members and worked with many of you, so it's awesome to see you guys. So, so when I was approached by this, I always like doing things, in the community. And one of the big things that I've done in the past is, we try to find fundraisers and stuff of that nature for the cross-country team. So I'm a teacher at Romeo Community School, special education teacher in the building. And then I am also a cross-country coach. And when we try to do things within the cross-country team, we try to do things that are relevant. And, part of our sport is, it's one of those things where it can join people together, and it's a good, healthy thing to do, and it's something that can be not only, done amongst our sport, but just the community as well. So we've done 5K races in the past, but we've really never been able to utilize the community per se. We did one in the past where we put on for Autism Awareness Month, and it was down the path and stuff, but the thing that we kind of ran into the issue with doing it down the path and stuff is we did it in April. We thought it was a good weather day. There ended up being a huge ice storm that day, and we ended up having to postpone and kind of rearrange things, and thankfully the community was really, really on board with it, and didn't get any complaints or anything like that, but it was difficult to kind of do it from that standpoint. And one of the things a lot of communities do when it comes to like 5K races and just putting on events in general, it usually ties into something that's community oriented because it brings more people from the outside in. Businesses usually benefit from that. that. And then another thing too is they actually use their downtown areas. I know Plymouth does it, Lake Orion does it, so we actually have the Peach Fest, but even the Peach Fest, I mean, they use our beautiful dirt roads, but they actually never use our downtown section, which is also absolutely amazing. So yeah, if we can accomplish something like this, I think it benefits the community as a whole, and then also it becomes a decent fundraiser for the cross-country team, who obviously is going to play a huge role in this, and they're a very, very hard-working group too, and so it's a good chance for them to be spotlighted too as well. So I look forward to working with this and trying to make it a cool event. My whole thing is I usually start small and look at what's manageable, and then kind of chip away at it and try to make things bigger that are warranted. So. And I'm looking forward to it. So if you guys obviously have any questions or concerns, I'm very, very open-ended when it comes to things and stuff, and I receive that stuff well, so you're definitely not offending me if there's questions or concerns about this. And I think it's going to be a cool thing. I really do.
It's great. Yeah, it's awesome.
If you stay there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I couldn't figure out how to print this map better than I did, because Madison wasn't in the afternoon I was doing this. But it's there. So we've done the preliminary map. We met with police chief, and they worked together, and well, that won't work, but this will. And so it was great to see the two of them collaborating on that. And Mike is going to be, his team is actually going to be working that day, in addition, volunteering in other ways for Winterfest, which is great. So they'll be helping with crosswalk stuff and whatnot. And I believe we're talking about putting the start-finish line right in front of your shop, John. So right there on North Main Street. And that'll be the start-finish line.
As far as I know, runners like coffee, so. So that's
we
always
will
a
have
bonus.
porta-johns. That will be really important. Back to just as I mentioned, for the events calendar, that is something that, by the way, board, that we will be making sure that we have porta-johns at every one of these big events, because it's a big strain on our businesses, because we don't have public restrooms in town. We talked also, so our cute little Winterfest logo here, Jessica is here. She's working on a logo that's going to say Romeo Winterfest 5K, and the snowman's going to have like little sneakers hanging around his neck. So that'll be their logo to use for their t-shirts and whatnot, and so we'll have some cross-marketing there for sure. And then Bill, raise your hand. Bill Miller, he is a tool and die maker, owns a business in town and lives in town. He's who I was telling you about. He made our snowman prize last year for Winterfest. He also fixes the clock and keeps that going on the church. He made our the award for Vintage Fest. And we want to ask you to make medals for them. Can you do that for the runners? Oh, okay, all right. Well, there you go. We won't be having those from him, but.
No worries.
He'll do the trophies we talked about.
Okay, that'd be cool.
And then the other thing, just to mention that Mike and I have talked about, is we're talking about also doing a 5K for Vintage Fest. And I said, how cool would it be if people showed up in vintage running gear? That'd be hysterical. Not shoes, because that would not be good for runners' feet. But, so this is the kind of stuff we're talking about doing, is not a one and done, but how can we, and that's another off-season for your team, correct?
Yes, and events like this really work well for the kids during the off-season, just because they can have more involvement in it. It doesn't really hinder the racing schedule and stuff, because just the kind of way my group is, you know, they're pretty locked into school and competing at a high level when it comes to the in-season stuff. So it's always hard to find more kids for those type of things. But off-season is a lot easier. Summer, definitely a lot easier.
And they have several National Honor Society kids that are working on doing hours. So again, it's all this layering effect of win-win situations. So yeah, so thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I will be running. It'll just be my second one, but I don't know how I'll do, but we'll see.
It'll be a nice addition. So just an overview for the outline and timeline for the Winterfest second annual. There's a list there. There's the snowman contest, the chili cook-off. I already had somebody call me today about the chili cook-off. I said, wait a minute, let me get the omelets done. Horse-drawn wagon rides, kids' crafts, traveling entertainment, warming stations, snowman building, and demonstrations, possible ice carving. What's the robotics team going to do?
They're looking to possibly be in the church again, but they'll be running their last year's robot because it'll be earlier, so they won't have the new one ready. But they had so much fun doing that last year. They're really excited about being involved in that again. So there's other activities that are in the works. I know, at the village council level, in all of these different events, they don't have to approve those. The approval has to come from the road closures or asking for parking or barricades, those types of things. So as far as the scheduling, that's really, my events team and whatnot will work on all those. And then, of course, you'll be abreast of that when we get that.
Do you have an update on the Vintage Fest car show?
Just briefly, is Mike Montgomery still here? Did he have to leave? He might have had to leave. Mike Montgomery is a local, he lives in Washington Township, I believe. He volunteered for the Vintage Fest car show last summer, and he is also a driver for STAR, for the senior citizen driving, and he reached out to us and said, I would love to help run that. My husband and I are new, we never thought we'd be camper people, but we just got an Airstream, and so now we're in that club. And so we reached out to the vintage camper groups, and they're very interested in having a vintage camper show here. Not only the Airstream, but the Tin Can? Tourists. Thank you, Tin Can Tourists. Yes, because you're a member of that, aren't you? So they're interested in collaborating, and they want to work with our car show liaison, and so that most likely will be Mike Montgomery. So that's something and he's also a Lion, and so I'm hoping to have a conversation. I've talked to a couple of the Lions that came to our last evening meeting. It's possible that they might boondock somewhere, whether it's there or somewhere else. That's a great addition, because we do want to close down both sides like we do for the trick-or-treating, so North Main and then South Main, to get business down, because the purpose of the DDA is to bring business to downtown, right? So we want to make sure it's not just limited to one side. So that's where he wasn't able to stay, but that's what we're looking to do. If the board thinks, that's something we kind of have to act on pretty quickly, because these camper people want to mark their calendars for next summer, and there's a lot of them in Michigan, and they're pretty excited about the idea of this. Is there any huge objection to that? Do you like the idea?
Yeah, I think it fits with the event. Yeah.
Okay. All right, very cool. All right, great. Thank you.
Next up is the vacant board member positions. This board has 2 openings. I don't know if we've had people put interest in.
Have there been any applications of interest?
I've had people reach out to me and directed them to send a letter of interest, a few people.
Have you received any?
Yeah, a couple. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You go to the podium.
Go to
if you
the
want.
podium.
Can you come up to the podium?
I was just going to say, I've emailed 3 times, twice last week and once this week, and I haven't heard a response, so I didn't know if there's a form or how you go about it, because it's kind of...
It would just be a letter of interest that you're basically putting your name in for the
Right.
vacancy, because
And to
it's,
who?
I would go to the village president.
And I did that twice.
Okay, well, because this board doesn't make those decisions. We're
Which that's what-
appointed
yeah.
by the village
Yeah.
council, so it's not anything that we could approve, so.
Right, so that's why I came, one of the reasons I came tonight, because it's the open seat here, so if I wasn't receiving any response,
Yeah.
that's why I came here tonight, so. Do I need to come into your office?
No, an email's fine. You're more than welcome to.
Okay, yeah, because in my email, I said I'd like to set up an interview, get to know you, or you get to know me.
Okay.
So would you want me to email you again, or?
I'll look through it. I
Okay.
apologize. I've
No
had a
worries.
lot in the last couple of weeks. At this point, at our meeting next week, this was something, or not next week, couple weeks, for our council to discuss, and then we'll go from there.
Right, and I
I want to
understand-
give ample time for
Yes, and I
everybody
understand that.
to turn in letters.
Yes, that's why I said I don't want to go about it the wrong way. so.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
GFL Waste Hauler Service and Rubbish Millage. This is something new.
It is, so I cannot speak well to this at all, but what I can say is that it was brought before me from the village accountant and also the DDA's accountant, that as some people may know, the rubbish millage has now been separated, and Megan, if I speak incorrectly, since you're the village president, let me know. But the general millage used to be combined with the rubbish, and so Plant Moran, when they did I was at the informational meeting for the budget workshop, and they said it has to be separated out. So there's businesses that have reached out to Clerk Trapp and also to the DDA saying, if I'm being charged a rubbish collection fee, why am I not getting the service? And so the accountant is saying, we need to somehow get a quote from GFL. That was something that the former president was working on, so I don't know if that's something, how the clerk and the president's going to work on that with the accountant, I don't know, but we have businesses that are wondering.
Is that tax that's captured by the village, though, not the DDA?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so it's, okay. Just
But
making
part
sure
of the
it's
reason
not
why it's
part of our
on,
DDA
yeah.
captured.
Part of the reason why it's on the DDA agenda is because one of the things that's on your guys' goal is for us to clean up the alleys behind 3 of the quadrants. There's dumpsters that are of different colors, different sizes. There's grease traps. They're kind of all cattywampus everywhere. And so if this is something we can facilitate, and not take control of it, because it's not our job to do that, but I'm willing to be a liaison between some of the businesses, but I just don't know what the direction the village wants to take.
Would part of that be like dumpster corrals on our end, like building, like similar to what's behind the Office Pub and Youngers? Is that what we're talking about, or like just strictly trash pickup?
I think it's just strictly, that's a good question. I guess I don't know. Megan, do you have any thoughts on that?
No, this is the first time hearing about it. If Clerk Trapp has had emails, or yourself, I have yet to be informed of any of this, so.
Okay.
I don't know.
But the millage and the coming up with a way, because GFL, who's the current contractor, can do a quote what that might cost, because they've already done the research, or the accountant already has they just have to do the work of it. The
So
village
this
would
was
be
a
to do
new
the work.
millage that's been broken out of the general fund.
Not new, but just separated.
Well,
right.
separated out of the
Like
general.
separating cream from milk, basically.
So they're paying for the trash pickup, but they're not getting the trash pickup.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I've said that a million times at these meetings. I told Christine,
Mm-hmm.
businesses are all paying for it. But we pay for our own trash.
Well, it sounds like it was only broke out in the last,
Well, but
it was
it's the
still
same
there.
tax money.
Right.
Yeah.
right.
What is the quote you're referring to, that they can make a quote for
If-
what?
So if GFL were to add businesses, so there's businesses that have only like a trash can like we do as the residents, right? But then there's the bigger ones, the dumpsters. So this is just something that would just make sense to do to try. So it could be both, I believe, but that's a great question for GFL. I don't know.
My business doesn't have any trash recyclable at all. We have nothing in our parking lot. We take it home. That's convenient.
Where's your business?
I'm above Paramount Roofing,
Okay.
so we literally bag it up and have to take it home once a week because there's nowhere to put it.
Yeah.
Donna?
We, at Eaton Manor, we also keep our own dumpster. So we're not part of the city, the village either.
I don't even have, I don't have a parking spot you can put a dumpster into. We park in municipal lots, so I think we're kind of stuck. I don't know what we're supposed to do.
Well, I think this sounds more like something for the president.
It says you park in the municipal lot and you have no trash can. You take it home.
Is that what it says?
It doesn't even talk about it. It was a huge, so I don't know if everybody in my alley has that same problem.
So Carl, you've brought this up before. You guys pay for trash pickup out of your taxes.
Yep.
And you pay for a dumpster.
No, we don't have a dumpster. We made our own corral and behind our business that we just put our bags in, and we pay for waste management to come in, or GFL, to come in. They just open it and take our garbage, but we have to
On
pay.
top of what you pay on the tax?
Yeah, everybody does. That's a business.
Yeah.
Potential can of worms, because
would roll under the industrial district also, because they pay
Right.
the same tax.
But it should be configured, it should be configured some way differently. If we are collecting that tax and not really giving them the service, then that should probably be looked at.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, due diligence on the DDA's end, just to know what that's costing. If the businesses are paying into it, it would be nice for us to
Pardon me?
know how much that is and if there's a solution. Not that we can necessarily take any action on it, but
Well,
it's kind of like the
it's-
polls, knowing the.
It's double dipping though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So is that the quote we're referring to, Zach, if I'm understanding what you're saying, it makes sense? What portion of the village rubbish pickup are the local businesses paying for?
Well, you'd have to have the Plant Moran break it out and come up with a figure.
Right, well, is that the
Your,
quote we're
if
asking?
you don't own the building, your property owner is the one who's paying that. And so how do they provide a service for you or not, right? If they, since they're getting taxed for that. But this is a bigger question. This is more an introduction. I wanted to do due diligence to the businesses that have reached out to say, hey, and so to have the conversation to say, that's aware, the accountant is looking for direction from, the village people, that's not the right way to say it, but the village administration, as far as, moving forward with that. Because if the tax is collected, it's got to be spent for that item, is how I understand it. So, from attending that budget workshop, so.
Okay. Did you? Nope. All right, insurance renewals. We have our directors and officers insurance renewal, and then the liability and property renewal. The bill in there for the, what is this one? The directors and officers is issued by Maris Brown Insurance for 1 year. The directors and officers is $12.75.
Is that up from last year, or is it the same?
That's actually the same price as last year, right? And yes, so.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the director and officer's liability insurance as issued by Maris Brown Insurance to be effective 12/15/2022 through 12/15/2023 in the amount of $1,275.
I'll second. Roll call.
Brandt?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Tar?
Yes.
Kellogg?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, the liability and property insurance renewal is $1,100.
Nope, the next one is 11 DII. So that's for the liability and property, it's $691.
Yeah, the original one was not to exceed 700, but I think you got the actual.
I gave a
quote.
new action item
So-
sheet tonight because the quote came in Friday afternoon. So that's why I put it on the table for you guys. That premium did go up from 500 to 691. And if you recall, last year this time, I kind of freaked out on you guys because I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't have property insurance. So, because we do have an extensive inventory of various things, lights and banners and, those types of things, and those are more costly than any of you realize. So you do now have that, so.
I'm sorry, what was last year?
500. The policy that they used to carry, they don't carry anymore, and so this is a slightly different one, and the price did go up, so.
Okay.
And this is the company that you guys have been using for quite some time, so.
I'll make a motion to approve the liability and property insurance renewal with Maris Brown Insurance in the amount of $691 for the period of January 5/23 through January 5/24.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Okay. Tar?
Yes.
Kellogg?
Yes.
Poznanski?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Brandt?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Hayes?
Yes.
Next up is the DDA office lease agreement. President Poznanski issued an email to Zach, Elizabeth, and myself indicating that the director would not have a set of keys to the building, and that she would be bringing the DDA lease to council in December to request that the lease be ended for us in the Village Hall. Zach, I think you had...
Yeah, I mean, some of us have talked about this more in depth than others, and I guess I'll take the blame for the email itself, because I sat down with Megan and Elizabeth earlier in the week, and, we discussed, that Elizabeth was not going to be given a key, and, from the DDA board's perspective, our employee needs a place to work, and we previously had access to the building before the locks were changed, and that's kind of when we were told that, no, we wouldn't be receiving a key. Megan was going to be speaking with the village attorney about it, and I said, well, Megan, we need to know what's going on, so once you've had your correspondence with the village attorney, I would ask that you email Kelly, Elizabeth, and myself and let us know what's going on so we can make the appropriate decision. We can probably sit here as a board and ask Megan why. I don't know if that's necessarily going to get us anywhere. My thought is,
I mean, I want to know.
Yeah, hold on. But, I've been on the board for 8 years, and, we've moved offices from the Fear Not building to the Chamber building, and a few years ago, we moved into the village office, and it's a lot of work moving offices, and there's a lack of consistency there, so I think, my position was for the board to be successful, it would be good to stay in that building, and, it's not our decision to make, it's a landlord-tenant issue, I guess, at this point, but it is going to be given to village council to vote on, but my ask would be to table it until we get through the holidays, until we get past one of our biggest events of the year in Winterfest, and at that point, maybe have a different conversation if the lease needs to be changed, if the use needs to be re-examined, if we need to pay more for the space that we're using, to kind of have a collaborative conversation about it at that point. That's my position as a board member, so.
So who is the landlord that is telling us we can't use the building?
The Village of Romeo.
Okay, is that space been a pre?
Who are you?
My name is RJ Costa, I live at 400 Main Street in Romeo, Michigan.
I'm sorry?
I'm a resident of Romeo.
Oh,
Yeah, 400 Main Street.
okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, sorry, John.
Sure.
So have they signed a lease with somebody else for that space?
Have they?
Do you know if there's been a lease signed for anybody else?
Yes, our president.
Well,
Okay.
Well, no, we're still under contract with the lease, so I
We have
can't
a
imagine that
month-to-month
a
lease.
lease would have
Okay.
been signed with somebody else, but it is a month-to-month lease. And both parties have the right, per the lease, to terminate that lease at any time with 30 days' notice, written notice.
Do you believe there is this is a, well, let me ask, so why is the lease been terminated? Do you know if it's month to month?
So at this time, I haven't even discussed this with my board, so I don't want to, not going to be going into depth here for my board then to just find out later. I was asked by Zach and Elizabeth to communicate more. So this was my way of actually giving more than the 30 days notice, that it's even just going to be talked about, because it might not happen if the board doesn't say so. So this is where I thought I was being more than generous to say, hey, just so you know, this is going to be talked about, so that we could speak about it at this meeting, and then even if it's handed to you the day after our meeting, it still has 30 days after that, which gives you the end of January. So it's giving more than ample notice that both parties have agreed to at this 30-day to cancel at any time for either party for any reason.
Right.
No reason need to be given.
Right, so,
So there's no reason?
Not at this time. I'm going to discuss it with my board at our meeting in a couple weeks.
To kick somebody out of an auction, did something happen?
Sometimes what benefits one party doesn't necessarily always benefit the other party. And so you end.
For the Village of Romeo, in a Village of Romeo building,
Right,
right? Okay, and you just changed the lock?
right.
Okay.
so the locks have already been changed?
That's correct.
I thought you said that had to be a board decision.
No, sir, as the president, I'm in charge of all of the buildings of the Village of Romeo.
And do you work for the board or the community?
Both.
It really seems like you just work for the board, and that's all that matters.
So you don't have a key to the building where you have an office right now?
I do not have a key to the building, and I've been told not to use the upstairs exit. And I tend to work longer than the rest of the staff. The staff, they're done at 4:30, so I scramble to get done by 4:30 so somebody can let me out, because I've been told I can't be in the building alone.
So we have
There's been no issues.
So we still have a month-to-month lease, but we don't have a key?
Correct.
That is correct.
And there's never been an issue since July 15th, 2019, when it was issued to the former director.
So if the board decided that she couldn't have a key to the building?
At this time, I've made that decision.
But you just said that it had to be under board approval to renew the lease, but you've made a decision that she can't use the
I
office.
have not made a decision regarding the lease. I would have full authority to do that, though, which I am not. I'm choosing to take the lease to the council.
So you're part of this board and you're trying to put a barrier of success to this board? That makes no sense to me.
We've all just sat here and heard how successful Elizabeth is. Nobody said at any point that this building made Elizabeth successful. I believe wholeheartedly Elizabeth is going to do what she does in any place she's at, in that building, in one down the street, it doesn't matter.
How are you going to support her to keep her success?
I full-heartedly support Elizabeth and always have.
Are you willing
This
to give her a
decision at the building has nothing to do
But
with
they're telling
Elizabeth.
you They need that space, they don't want to move, like, you're making it harder, and you can't even give a reason why you're making it harder. It doesn't seem like you're supportive.
What's the rent?
There's no harm in having a key.
$50 rent.
Well, that was my perspective as far, if the $50 amount isn't enough for the space that we're leasing out. So just for some background, the lease, when that was signed, that building was being used once a week when we had a part-time office staff. One person using the space when nobody else was there. So the use of that lease has somewhat changed in Elizabeth's time there, with having support staff, with more activity, with more meetings being held. So shame on us for not re-looking at that lease when the scope of that use changed. We should have been more on top of that to say, okay, things are happening, things are progressing. Can we get a 3-year lease? Can we maybe define our space a little bit more? We'll give you $300 a month if it helps with the way we're using it.
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
I wholeheartedly disagree with that. We're the village, we're the DDA, we work together to make good things happen. I think what we're seeing here is a beginning of a demolition by neglect. No different whenever you want to get rid of anything, you just don't take care of it. Kind of rots and goes away, make it harder to get it done, throw obstacles, throw things in the way, and that's what I sense is happening here. I've been involved with the DDA for a handful of years, and we all know what success is going on here. It doesn't matter if we're paying $50 a month or $300 a month for that. This is about making this village a better place. We wanted, we have people who promoted transparency and getting the job done and letting people know what's going on. Respectfully, I just disagree with what my colleague, who I admire a lot, is saying. I think this is the beginning of a sabotage and a demolition by neglect. So I want to say that, and I say that respectfully. But I've thought about this, I've talked to people, I have I've listened to Megan now, she's had an opportunity to explain why she's proposing even terminating the lease, and there's just, no one's given a reason why, other than to cause angst.
Is there a suitable reason why at all?
No.
Exactly. So why would we belabor the fact of going into all of the whys?
The why.
We
no,
can
no,
break this lease at any
There is
time.
a why that's needed, because we are one entity, we work together, and this is not a tail that wags a dog or dog that wags a tail. This is where we work together as one.
I agree, Greg. We do work together. We do work hand in hand. But there's times where, like I said, sometimes what benefits one does not necessarily benefit the other or work for the other. So that's where we're at.
There just
It
hasn't been an
doesn't work.
explanation of that yet. That's the issue.
That's what I'm
record, too,
saying.
The DDA has shared in some significant expenses. When you look at the things like the crosswalks, and I think Elizabeth or Kelly could maybe throw a number at it, but we've gone places financially to help the village do things that, many could argue maybe we shouldn't even have to have done that. But those crosswalks are there because of a lot of hard work of folks, but then also us ponying up a fair amount of money for that to make that happen. So there's lots of examples the last several years of the DDA and the village working really well together. And this will be interesting to see if it's the beginning of the end of working well together. So that's just I just wanted to voice my opinion on that, because
I can actually.
In the intent.
To another part of the village or and for the rest of the board. You're saying this is definitely sabotaging a very
I look at it that way.
Anybody. And I will give a little background. They were in my building. And Megan, you were on this council here, this board. And the decision to move to Village Hall was a financial and a beneficial to the DDA. They were paying more money in my building. It was suggested that they all start working together. That's why the office space was given to the DDA upstairs. And I think you did vote for that.
At the time, yes, for the setup that it was, yeah.
So.
We're no longer there.
We have different hours, you're right, we have a full-time employee, but couldn't we compromise and come up with a feasible plan that would offer a benefit to the village and still keep the...
I would not offer this office space to anybody at all. It's not conducive to the way that the office is set up.
What changed 4 years ago to now?
The way that it's used.
It's been used the whole time, and you voted for that.
It's been used differently.
How was it used differently?
So I feel like we are focusing all of our energies in the wrong aspect here. The reason I sent this email was so that we could focus on what, should this pass at the council level, what are we going to do? I was trying to give enough heads up, more than 30 days. Even though 30 days was what we all agreed upon, I felt that extra would be kind. That would be, maybe 30 days is kind of...
to have a compromise to be able to keep the DDA there.
Well, I see it a little differently.
So you don't want the DDA there?
It is not conducive to the DDA or anybody being in the office.
Have you asked the staff if they think that it's conducive, the office staff?
I've spoken with a lot of staff over the last couple of weeks, yes.
No, the office staff, the ones that I've worked with for the last 14 months.
Yes,
We have an amazing camaraderie in that office.
Yes.
And
I've spoken with
I
the
assist, if I may, Kelly, if I may. The village accountant is there a couple times a week. The bookkeeping gets done in-house. I assist the clerk many times on several different issues within the village, and so being in the same space has been helpful. Ultimately, if you don't want me, if it's me and you don't want me in the building, let's just call a spade, if that's truly what the issue is. But what I want to do is give some historical context, and then it's up to you when Ruth talks. But if you guys look back to the budget that you guys approved for the July 1st budget, which Village Council also approved, the line item under 720.010 on the line item budget was to increase the office rent budget item from $600 to $1,200. That was something that Christine had talked to you all about the possibility of increasing the rent because we do use the space more. There's also been brought up the fact that a building was left unlocked, which neither myself nor Treasurer Caroline Miller left unlocked, so I'm not sure why that story was told. But the building was definitely not ever insecure. There was no police report. There was never a phone call until 3.5 days later saying, hey, you guys left the building unlocked after the last event committee meeting in the evening. So for the record, I'm just going to preemptively say we did not leave the building unattended or unlocked, so I'm not sure what that story is about.
Who said that you did?
The former treasurer Maddox, 3 days after it was supposedly left open. So in addition to that, anytime when the scope started to change, so for those of you who don't know, I think she's saying if somebody kicks a wire under here, that's what makes them do that.
That's what that sound is, somebody's kicking a cable.
So.
Thank you.
October 4th, 21 was my first day in the village offices. I met Lisa Hall, is a former director. She did not give me keys. She turned keys into Clerk Trapp, who used to be in charge of the keys for the building, and then she issued keys to me because she was the one who kept them previously. So the keys have always been through the proper channels of how they were received. I started working in there even though I can work flexibly, when you guys hired me, I said I traveled quite a bit, and, so I had, you guys give me a lot of flexibility with that. I like the space, and we've worked really well, and I'm talking to businesses all the time, and so we're in and out constantly. When I had the idea of events meeting, I asked, can I have a meeting up here? And then we created an office calendar so that there was never a conflict. If there was going to be a meeting up at that conference table, if there was a confidential meeting that had to happen, I would leave the building or I would go use someone's office downstairs. When the idea came up that you guys knew about, because it came to to the DDA board, I have this idea of an intern. Here's how we can fund this. How can we do this? And Christine was a little apprehensive at first. She's like, the space, I don't know. We probably have to start talking about how do we use this differently? How do we charge for this? So this has been an ongoing conversation. And then the idea of her being there, part-time, again, you all approve this in the budget for this, and at no time have I had a meeting in that space without the permission of either the former president or the clerk. At no time have I ever used that building inappropriately or for personal use. At no time has that building been left unsecured. So just for your clarity, that has always been discussed, and so anytime there's been a meeting on either end, save the one that we had the event committee meeting, I didn't know that the tree board didn't know we had a meeting, and so we kind of overlapped there a little bit, and so it was a little disruptive, so I apologize for that, but there was no other time to figure that out. So full transparency, that is what has happened. So we've had a lot of inter-office communication. It is not in writing, but we did that all the time to make sure we didn't, but the events calendar was our writing to make sure we didn't step on each other's toe, and we made it work. We made it work quite well, actually.
Are you done? Okay. Megan, you're our new president, and we are here to support you as residents and of businesses. And you ran on transparency, and you have been in the office for 3 days when we heard about this lease. And my question to you is, in those 3 days of just getting in, getting warmed up, getting to know everything that's going on, how many residents told you that they didn't want the DDA in the building? Because everyone on the board, every trustee, the president, the clerk, the DDA, work for the residents. They're our voice. And I'm also a resident of the Village of Romeo. So for every decision that's made, we always assume it's attached to our voices and what we want. And I've heard no residents, and I don't hear from everybody, but I'm on 3 committees that meet in the Village of Romeo offices, including the tree board that we had one mix-up, and we all worked that out. There's not a lot of spaces to have meetings and be cohesive with our village. And all of these committees work for our village and our residents and our businesses. That's who we have in mind. So My question to you is, how many residents told you that they needed you to close the lease for the DDA?
Thank you, Ruth. When I ran for this office, I ran on protecting the village and preserving our past.
And transparency.
Yes. And I have been transparent. I've been over-transparent with sending the email and letting everybody know. And this is my step that I promised, to protect the village. And this is what I'm doing. I'm fulfilling that the people said, yes, please protect our village.
So
And so
what-
this is a step.
So how do, if you, and excuse me, but that also flies in the face of every person who dedicates their time. And believe me, I'm one of their biggest sponsors and volunteers, and so is my company, and so are my neighbors. So what are you saying about us? That the people that volunteer, because there's a difference between Romeo, Bruce, and Washington, and the difference is we have 800 hours of people that would volunteer for this community to make it who it is, to make it what it is, because people want to move here because of that. So now we're not being trusted with going into our own village offices that we pay for. We're not being trusted enough to do that. That is a huge question and a huge issue, and I think would be issue to every resident in the village of
So
Romeo.
you would think it would be correct to give a key to everybody in the village and give everyone access just
You're a representative of everyone of our village.
There's a keypad there because the office staff wanted safety. So there's a reason that that door was put in before I was here.
But I know she asked for early morning meetings, for one. And I know that she works her butt off, and she makes us get in there really early sometimes. But, so, to not give that, and also to move out, I question where you got your responses, and who connects that to saving our village, or keeping our village safe. Because I haven't heard anything.
And what can we do as a community to support you, to help you get through this, so we can do right by Elizabeth and support her?
Well, I think
What do you need as the community who loves all these things she's doing? Everyone thinks she's great, doesn't have a problem with her. So how can we support you to help you support her? As a community. I don't want to hear a word about the board, because the board works for us as the community.
Right.
Elizabeth, you're young. I'm old, but I got back to a different way. I'm the oldest one here. I've been in this village for 60 years. I grew up in this village, and I now own a business in this village. I pay taxes to the village of Romeo and to Washington Township, and personally to Ray Township. What this village was in the 60s and 70s, wow. And I'm sorry for those of you that are so young that you didn't have that. It's coming back. It's coming back, and it's been obvious, and I'm not going to ask Kelly, I'm not going to talking to her.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
But, oh my God, it's a beautiful place. And 99.999% of us all love each other and get along so well, so let's keep this going, people, please. Please make it.
And it will continue, whether or not Elizabeth or the DDA or whoever our director is at the time, whether or not we share a building or they're next door or wherever it's at, we wholeheartedly support our DDA. I mean, we just approved the master plan for another 15 years. I was part of approving Elizabeth to work for this board.
Give her a key to the building.
Give her a key then. Support her.
Wholeheartedly means that you would wholeheartedly support her.
How big of a space are we talking that you're in? I mean, I need to know. Is this
Yeah.
just an office, or?
So it's the upstairs, it's not that, it's sort of, think of like an open office space. I have a cubicle space, and then I have a desk that actually Jason picked up and donated and brought up, and so that's what Madison works out of part-time. We use the conference table, so I guess probably, I don't know, 5 by 10, plus a closet.
Okay, so when do you have to be out? Like, can we all help you move? I have an office. You can use it for free.
I love you.
I'll give you a key. I'll give you a key. Okay? Can we move you out tomorrow? What time
No.
can we do? I'm asking a question.
I
think everybody probably feels that.
There's enough of us right here that'll help you
I
move.
think the community you won't have a problem finding space, but I think all the people in this room would like to know why she cannot have.
Well, she's not gonna give her.
What is?
Well, but let's be clear too, you know, her doing her job in the village office for the reason she outlined, there's a lot of continuity there. The accounting people are there, come to the village office. It just makes sense if you want to start a business, do a build out, meet with the building inspector, meet with Cindy Wilson, you know, these folks, they're there. That's where the DDA needs to be. And it makes a ton of sense to keep the continuity.
We will support you.
Justin?
How is it handled in other municipalities?
A lot of them are commingled.
Like Rochester and Lake Orion, you guys always refer to them. Are they
Lake Orion
in the same municipality?
Lake
or
Orion
in the same
is.
building, or they
Yes.
they rent their own space?
No, Lake Orion is in the municipalities, as well as Oxford, too.
Would you like?
I'm not sure about Rochester.
As a board decision, you know, to dictate or move, yeah, shove, change locks, it's horrible. We don't live in that type of environment.
Megan, will you give her a key or not?
Not at this time, no.
What, can you say why? You will not give her a key?
I think she already said she's protecting the village interest. So this is not going to go any further in discussion until Megan takes it to her board on December the 19th. So if you all have an interest in supporting the DDA, I'd suggest showing up at the board meeting. Next up, board member comments. Carl?
No, I just want to thank Ryan and Andrew for helping as they always do, and Nick Chika helped putting up the Christmas lights, so thanks
Yeah.
again to them.
Nice job. Thank you.
Do we have extra lights that were left over,
I have
Carl?
them in my car for you.
Okay, how many, are there kits? Because there were 4 businesses
I'll
that,
tell you after. Yep,
okay.
I got it.
Okay, I thought you said you wanted to talk about it tonight.
Yeah, I just meant I'd give it to you. I just meant I'd give it to you in the parking lot. I have all of them made up for you to take.
Okay, understood. Okay, just because
I didn't
lights
even
on,
discuss it at the meeting. I just meant I would just see you tonight to give them to you.
got it, okay. I just don't understand how lights got up on buildings that, yeah, so Christmas lights are on buildings that weren't part of the, and that's not an agenda item, so I'm not sure what to
You
do
and
with that.
Carl can discuss
Okay.
that. Okay. John?
I'm all set.
You all set? Megan?
Just thank you to Carl and everybody that helped. It looks great.
Thanks.
I'd like to thank, or congratulate Katie Heitman from Mother Earth Spa. Macomb County ran a Shop Local contest, and the shoppers could get $150, but the business owners would be getting $1,000, and her name was drawn today.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so congratulations to Katie on that.
It's her birthday today. It's a great birthday present.
And then the Chamber's hosting our 20th annual Emma Awards, Roaring 20 Party on Friday. This is Emma Awards stands for Extraordinary Member Merit Awards. And in 20 years, we've highlighted a lot of good people in this community.
Yes.
Nothing.
Thank Carl and Andrew for hanging up all the lights. I think, was this the 3rd or 4th year?
Yeah, I think it's 4, maybe.
It's a thankless job, but the town looks great.
I keep saying we should start in August, but you know it's always December.
Well, my
leave 'em up.
windows
We'll
should be
turn- we'll
thicker. I
unplug
can
'em.
just hear you two going back and forth.
And this, I mean, in 8 years, this is our biggest crowd we've ever had, so.
Thank you.
It's,
Yeah, first of all, thanks for everybody that came out to hear a little bit more about what we're doing. It is meaningful. There's, a lot of volunteer time up here, and I'm all for making, this job as easy as possible, and, don't like these speed bumps and hiccups. I want to thank Carl and his associate there for getting the lights put out. I felt a little bit guilty having you come down to my building and do workouts. No one's ever done that before that I haven't paid or done myself, so thank you. I do have a question. I mean, I wasn't perplexed. There's a couple on 32 Mile Road that got put up there. I don't recall that was part of our discussion. If was that done by the DDA, or?
Yeah, I did
is
it. We talked about, when we discussed it in August, Megan said she'd like them on her building. Megan
Okay.
asked me in lieu of doing them on her building to do on Katie's building to get some attention.
I thought we were
asked-
going to do more on the Main Street, that's all, to keep it consistent. There was-
Well, we have all of our four corners bookend. Marty decorated her building, and River of God bookend that end of the CBD.
Okay.
The Masonic Temple is booked, and the chambers at that end. We did Old World Nouveau at that end, so that completed the four corners of our CBD.
Maybe next year, the board can review and maybe approve something that's actually set up and, clearly laid out, and that
Yeah.
would be helpful
Looks
to avoid
great.
any confusion.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
Did you do all the lights on Rankowski? up and down?
No, they hire all that. Those fancy ones they hired on.
But they match.
I know.
So I guess I'm looking for a little direction from this board, because you did approve a certain lights to go up on certain buildings, and then they were just put up on Megan's personal building and the building next to it. So people need to know that, because businesses were asking.
There was no approval. You sent me a list of buildings.
There was, actually, I
And
have.
I did mention it when we were talking about
We
it.
did.
I literally said Katie.
So I'm not trying to cause a stir, it's just that it's caused a hardship with me communicating with businesses when they're like, nobody's contacted me, am I still getting the lights? So it's just, it's confusing. So I guess I mean, if I take direction from the board and then it's done differently, I just need to know who's in charge of that. Is it me or is it
When
board?
did we approve that? Because I thought the number actually
Yeah.
changed too at some point.
In November, I'd have to look at, but, I mean, maps were provided, all of it, so I can look, I didn't bring that tonight.
You did
so.
email it out. I do not believe it was approved, the actual buildings. I mean, I started it with those 9 or 11 buildings that I did to start with, just from this board. And then you wanted to grow it, and I said at the time, because you said 10, I said, I think I could do 4 more with my schedule. You cut it to 7, and if you look at our text messages, it says right in there, I'm glad that everyone's interested. I will do as many as I can. And then there's 5 new ones this year. And the only people that reached out to me after that email was the Old World Nouveau and Tech City.
So I guess I would just ask for the courtesy of having the communication so that I can tell the businesses I found them on those other 2 buildings at night when I was on a run. I was just surprised they were there when they were, slated to be somewhere else. So it would just be as your director, if I'm doing the work, but then the board goes and does something different, or board member, it's just, it's confusing for me as your director, so that would be very helpful. And I know that it's been a volunteer board for, a long time, and so we're still going through growing pains, or I am. I'll speak to my own.
No, we are too, because it's, it's the busiest we've ever been as a DDA board.
So
for
maybe
sure.
next year we put it more clearly to a vote to this board. Okay?
Okay, I'll make sure to do that.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'm sorry. There's other information in your board packet that was brought just regarding the, if I may, the sidewalk treatment in front of the Masonic Temple is slated to happen tomorrow, so I just got that communication since we've co-funded this project. It was brought to you tonight. It was also emailed to you. So just so you know, it's there. It's the epoxy coating, a non-slip coating that's supposed to be, that was discussed, and it was actually some of the masons, it was their idea when we had that meeting on, I have the date somewhere. I think I skipped over it in my director's report, but I know we had it. And so that is there for you to just for review. I'm not asking for any board action. And then there were just 2 letters of communication from the Romeo High School Serve team regarding their appreciation for the scavenger hunt. So those were included in your board packet. So that was the only other thing. And then one last thing, the meeting changed for 2023. Romeo DDA board meetings will be at the same time as every other board meeting in the village, which is 7 p.m. So just so you know, this was the last night for it to be at 6 o'clock.
Is that why you thought we were starting at 7, Grace? Did you think we were starting at 7 tonight? No. Oh, okay. All right.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody.